saying, and which I agree with, and as we covered, know your nature and discover it along the way. But also, for me, it's if I can make my work and passion the same thing and not forget about the money part.
Yes.
Then I am going to probably be successful because I'll be happy. I'll also be good at what I'm doing.
Yes.
And the money part is an important part that you can't forget about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think another principle ideally is to be self-sufficient plus. What I mean by self-sufficient plus is that you're not dependent on the money coming from anybody else if you can,
Yes,
right?
yes.
That because you then have, if it doesn't come from anyone else in that way, first you're raising yourself to the level to be self-sufficient. And I don't really care whether that's at a high level of income or a low level of income. The important thing is that you're happy, that you pursue goals
Yes.
and that happiness and that particular thing. But if you're self-sufficient, it means you're free, you're self-sufficient, and it means also that you can help others because you got some plus. What are your thoughts about that's one of mine.
Yeah.
What about yours in terms of that measurement about money? How do you approach money? What is the right amount of money?
Yeah, I would say that we're very aligned. I think the right amount of money is what's right for you and what you're creating. But I love the self-sufficient plus because I had this conversation. I had to really rewire my relationship with money as I grew older because I was kind of trained to believe that I always needed just enough. I always grew up with just enough. I saw zero in my bank. I started working when I was 14 and saw zero in my bank account for many, many years. And that was fine. It was like, okay, I had just enough. I paid for that thing. Okay, if I have zero, that's good. Like I lived like that from 14 to 21. And then when I went back into the world of work, I just realized how that was not the way to live. And it wasn't, I lived that way because I had luxuries. It was just what I had. It wasn't that I was wasting money. It was just that I never knew how to make it, keep it, save it, invest it. And so when I rewired my relationship with money, I love self-sufficiency plus because to me, I also realized that being able to contribute, being able to give back, being able to pass on was such a healthy part of it. But so often we're trained that simplicity is having enough for yourself. But having enough should include being able to also give, whatever that may be.
Same experience happened to me, and we're talking about the life arc. Like for me, up until, I guess it was certainly my early 20s, I was exactly like you. Like, I like to do the things I like to do. If I've got enough money to do them, I'm having a blast. I don't need any more than that.
Yes.
And then I got to a point where I started to calculate how many weeks I could live if not a dollar came in. Okay,
Yeah.
if I could live, can I live a month? Can I live 12 months?
Yes.
I would calculate if I'm spending it this and I have this, and I wanted to live, have enough freedom of that worry that I could have that amount. And I got to the point where it was about 3 years. If I could have 3 years that I knew like I'm downtime, and that gives me enough wiggle room. And so I started to realize that if I took the amount of money I had by the rate at which I spent it, and I calculated how long it would last,
Yeah.
that gave me that kind of perspective.
Yes.
And then I have a family.
Yeah.
And then as I start to think of the family, that number changes. And of course, like you say, everybody then is an investor.
Correct.
Because everybody's who has that has to put it somewhere, got to know about it.
Yeah.
But I had the same experience. I think that experience is part of the life arc.
Yes.
You know, in the earlier part of your life.
It's reassuring to hear that, yeah.
It's normal. Then you get to a certain other part of your life.
Yeah, and I think the other thing for me and the measure that I give people is that, let's say when you start your working life, hopefully it isn't this case, but I think for the majority of people it will be, when you first start your career, 100% of your time at work is potentially doing something you don't love. And I think
that's good for you.
Yeah, that's good for you. It's important. It builds resilience, it builds character, it's great. But I think success and happiness to me is that as life goes on, that percentage starts to get lower and lower.
Well,
and lower.
I think it is. I think it's just that you do things, for me anyway,
Yeah.
it's that I do things that I don't love because I get things that I love more.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I say that about my life today when everyone's like, oh, Jay, you must love your life. And I'm like, I do plenty of things that I don't love to do in order to make time and space to do what I love to do and do more of. I fully agree. But I think that percentage needs to shift because you don't want 100% of your time at work to be doing something you don't love.
Another principle I would say, and I want to get your thoughts, I'm going to pull out your principle, is own it and don't be the victim. What I mean,
Yes.
that person who describes, this terrible thing and also tends to blame others, this thing happened and that thing happened, is probably not looking at it as what do I do in this chess game of life that is now having these things come at me, where if you own it and you say, listen, this is your game, this is your life, and these things come at you, and now it's your move, and you got to make those moves right. So you're thinking not woe is me, but you're thinking, okay, now I've got to do that.
Yes.
I think that's an important approach to life. What do you think?
Yes.
And what is, or your version of something like that. Feel free to totally disagree with me.
No,
or
I wish, I mean, I'm not saying I wish I disagreed with you. I don't, because I think there's a lot of similarities. I've always called it change the situation, change yourself. And it's like, I think a lot of us, those are two choices. And I think a lot of the time we put a lot of energy into changing a situation. And to me, that's a lot of the time that's out of our control, what we were discussing. Like, I can't decide the weather today. I can't decide whether someone's going to like me because of how I behave with them. I can't change someone's complete energy or aura to. I can't always change the situation, but I can change how I view it. I can change myself. And Wayne Dyer had a beautiful statement where he said that when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And I think that's always been very important to me, is that if I can't change the situation, how can I look at it differently? How can I change the lens through which I'm perceiving this?
So I hear that connected to the thing that you said earlier about whether you're feeling good for yourself.